So I was given two topics this evening. One is the impact of music on my life, and the other is the magic of music. Now, for anyone who knows me knows that I am as musically inclined with an instrument as you can possibly be. I couldn't learn the scales on a keyboard in like 4th grade. It took me at least 6 months of the year just to get past like the first 4 pages of the music manual in 4th grade. If you remember, they teach the piano. So, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. The impact of music on my life has got to be by far through the oddest ways you can ever imagine. It has inclined me to become more talented with electronics, learn how things work, and most of all, listen. And I'll tell you why. When I was a young kid, the first thing I got in my room was a stereo. First thing I remember having in my room is a stereo. And then suddenly I added more speakers. And then I added more speakers and more speakers to the point where I added so many speakers it wasn't getting any louder because the stereo actually wasn't powerful enough to push it anymore. So then, about my 10th Christmas, my mom buys me speakers. They're this tall, I still have them to this day, and they're Sony's. And they have 10-inch subwoofers. Do y'all know what a 10-inch subwoofer is? If you don't, it's your annoying neighbor. Boom, boom, boom. That's what a subwoofer is. These were 3-way 10-inch subwoofers. They had a 6-inch midway and a 2-inch tweeter. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's a good time for somebody who really likes speakers and loud music. Now, I had the speakers, but my stereo still wasn't big enough. So I got more pieces. I started going to yard sales and getting these old amplifiers that would power who knows what. They had vacuum tubes, they were so old. That's what I had as a kid. Now, coming into my high school years, naturally you get a car. What's the first thing you got to do? You got to get a cool stereo, right? So I go out, I get a new radio, CD player. I go on eBay and I find 2 10-inch subs in a bandpass box with big old holes in them that make a ton of noise. A ton of noise. I got a 1,000-watt amplifier. Most home stereos only have 500 watts total, and that's really loud. So I was in my 1992 Camaro with the T-tops off, but it was a hatchback, so I had this bass box pointed at the back of my head. It was so loud, I actually started to lose hearing. I actually had to stop listening to it so loud. So, that's one way music has changed my life. I can't hear as well. But another thing that did for me is it really made me realize how all these things work together. I was just in a restaurant last night, literally, and I got up and fixed someone's amplifier and their satellite radio. And I wouldn't know how to do that if I didn't have these experiences as a child. Now in my adult life, the way it's really affected me is in church. Believe it or not, a big part of a church service these days, if it's modern, is with a soundboard. It's actually with monitoring a band. It's with making sure the pastor doesn't sound like he's Mickey Mouse. All those buttons will make him do that. You don't want him to sound like Mickey Mouse, right? So, by learning all these things as a young kid, it was very natural for me when I came to the church after moving to Florida to start doing the soundboard and start listening to the guitar and start listening to the drums. And believe it or not, I cannot play one note, not one chord, it's not even a note, that goes to show you, on a guitar. But if you play a guitar in front of me, I can tell you which string is out of tune. I can hear it, I just can't do it. So, that's really how music has had an impact on me. Just because you can't play it doesn't mean you can't participate. But I've got to tell you, it's difficult dealing with musicians. When you tell them they don't sound right, they're not too happy about it. Tell a guitar player that he's playing too loud. Oh yeah, you make friends real quick, believe me. It does not go over well at all. Or if you tell one of the backup singers you have to turn down their mic because they're singing too loud. And they're actually singing over the lead singer. It makes for interesting situations that you really have to manage how you say it, who you say it to. So it's almost like conflict management. So that's one of the things that music has done for me as well, which by the way I'm still working on. I'm still not very good at telling people how I feel without offending them. I'm very straightforward. I'm very crass, and I really need to work on that. So if anybody has any good tips, you can speak with me after the meeting, and maybe we can go over that together. But to wrap it up, as a child, putting things together, learning how they work, and realizing that just because you plug everything into it doesn't make it louder was a good experience. Then as a teenager, I learned that louder is not better. And since then, I make sure I monitor how loud sound is in churches as well for youth services to make sure the kids' hearing actually is not being damaged. Anything over 105 decibels, you can actually start to lose hearing, which can be really dangerous. And then to wrap it all up, it's just running a soundboard and doing AV at a church. So that's really how it's impacted me. Mr. Toastmaster?
All right.